Just you and I, defying gravity. And defying gravity. Thank you, buddy. Hey, hi, hello friends. Welcome back or welcome to my channel. It's Hales. Today I thought I would do a November reading wrap up, possibly a December hopefuls. Obviously I have not done one of these at all this year, but I'm feeling inspired, particularly because November I set a goal for myself that I think I pretty well achieved. So for November I decided to do what I have dubbed, I mean, I don't think I've come up with this term. I'm pretty sure I saw someone else doing the same thing. So whoever came up with this term, I did NetGalley November. I am a terrible, terrible mood reader, so many times I do not get to reading them before the book comes out. And I might as well just wait till it comes out to request it from my library or something. I get really excited because of course there are books I really want to read and I'm really excited about, and I think, oh yeah, I'm totally... Hey! Thief. Thief, Ronald, thief! He's a thief. I think totally I'm gonna have time to read this book before it comes out, or I just like go on a spree of requesting books that I think sound interesting and don't actually believe that I'm gonna get approved for them, because it's kind of hit or miss. But I've been on NetGalley for 5 years now, so like, even though my ratio is really, really bad, I think I'm like, I think now at the end of November I'm at 60%, but it usually teeters between 50 and 60 because I am really bad at reading my NetGalley books on time, promptly. You know, it's hard when you end up requesting so many and then you get behind and then you have to decide, well, do I want to catch up with the NetGalley arcs and try to read the ones that just came out? Or do I want to try to read the ones that are still upcoming that I could still get ahead on, but then the ones that I'm behind on stay behind? So I end up going through this cycle in my mind. So anyway, all of this long explanation to say that I decided to participate in NetGalley November. So most, I think except 2 books that I read in November were all NetGalley arcs. They were either audiobook NetGalley arcs that I had, or they were ebooks. I did end up reading every single book as an audiobook this month. So regardless of the format of the arc I was sent, this was me catching up with all the ones I had access to the audiobooks for, if that makes sense. I hope this is tracking, because I fear that my explanation is very roundabout because I'm getting distracted by Ronald deciding that now that I'm filming is the time for him to have the zoomies and play with his toys. I digress. I thought we could go through the books I read in November and talk about them a little bit briefly, maybe tell you my star ratings, and in general if I liked them or not, and then kind of talk about what I want to read for the last month of the year. I can't believe that we're almost done with 2025. Like, where has the time gone? Wild. Anyway, starting off, the first book I read in November was my 3rd reread of Bonds of Hercules. I know I haven't done a dedicated video to the Blood of Hercules, Bonds of Hercules books, but my god, the chokehold that series has on me is wild. They are not like literary masterpieces by any stretch of the imagination, but they're a very good time. A very good time. So that was a reread. 5 stars. Audiobook is great. Highly recommend. The second book I read in November was by K.M. Moranova, and it was Your Knife, My Heart. Okay, I gave this 5 stars. Thank you to Libro FM for the ALC, because my god, this is like a dark military romance, and again, it's not necessarily like a literary masterpiece, but it is such a good time, and it was so unhinged, and I ate it up. I I ate it up. I listened to that audiobook in like less than 24 hours because I just could not stop. It was so good. If you like an unhinged kind of dark romance, actually, not kind of, it's pretty dark. The romance itself, no, even that's pretty dark. Yeah, if you don't like dark romance, don't read that. The third book I read was The Sea Witch by Eva Lee. I gave this 4 stars because I did really, really like it. And I am actually very excited. I looked it up. I think this is book 1 in a duology. Very much enjoy it. It's like Pirates of the Caribbean, but like gender swapped. So she's the pirate and he's like her captive. Yes. Making sure I said that right. And she's also a witch. And everyone on her ship, they're all women. Like all of her crewmates. Crewmates? Is that how you say that? Crew? Just her crew. Her crew are all women and most of them are witches as well. Not all of them, but they're like a mix. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. It was dual POV. I can't remember if the audiobook was... No, I think it was just one audiobook narrator. I don't think there was like a dual narration or duet narration. I think it was just one woman. I was surprised because it was written in third person. I don't have anything against third person, but I don't know why. It just took me aback. I wasn't expecting it, but it was very good. Highly recommend. I can't wait for the next book. The 4th book I read and listened to the audiobook for was Hollow by Selena Myers. Okay, listen. I wanted to like this. I can see where she was going with it. It felt very nostalgic of like the books of the Vampire Diaries and those kind of classic early 2000s, 90s, like nostalgic. Actually, I don't know what year the Vampire Diaries was actually written. I'm gonna Google it. Okay, so it was the 90s. So it was 1991. So like 90s and 2000s vampire vibes. That's kind of what this was trying to emulate, and you could very clearly see that. Unfortunately, I felt like the book was too short to really handle all of the elements that were included. Like there was like a whole magic system, like you know how in Twilight all the vampires have their own like magical abilities that kind of develops as they become vampires, and like they only turn vampires like if they're already dying, like they don't, well, the Cullens specifically, and things like that. It was kind of like that, but like there was a lot that was happening and not a lot of it was explained. There were also too many characters for me to care about all of them, and so when things happened to the characters, I was like, I don't care. I don't know who you are. I can't remember who you are. I have no recollection of your importance. So too many characters, not enough explanation. And then at the end, there was like an epilogue that kind of ends on a cliffhanger, but like not a fun cliffhanger, not a like, oh my god, that's wild, in kind of a like, this would have been interesting had this not been the end of the book kind of cliffhanger. And there's no explanation of whether or not this is going to be a series. It just is. So if it's going to be part of a series, then I could absolutely get behind the shortness of it and like the ending. But if it's a standalone, no. No, I did not like it. So I gave it 2 stars. I gave it 2 stars. I don't really know what to say about that more. I wanted to like it. I didn't though. So my platform is not really to bring down or like talk about books that I didn't like, because I'm really more about promoting books that I do like. But in these kinds of cases, I do want to give my honest opinion, and I didn't enjoy it, and I wanted to. There were all the elements of things that I should enjoy, but I don't. The 5th book that I read in November was Fallen City by Adrienne Young. This book, I gave 4 stars. It was very good. It's the first part of a duology, and I really enjoyed the relationship. They're on opposite sides of a conflict, and it was like a forbidden secret thing. it very much was giving Padme and Anakin. And I can't say more than that, but it was giving their relationship. So do with that what you will. I gave it 4 stars. There was a couple of things that I didn't love or I wished had more explanations, but like nothing significant. It was a solid book, and I'm very excited for the second part. The 6th book I read was The Book of Autumn. Now, I don't even remember requesting this book on NetGalley. This must have been one of my, you know, middle of the night, I'm gonna request books that just kind of sound good. This was such an interesting book. I gave it 4 stars, so I did really like it. But it was such a strange book. I don't even know what to compare this book to. But it was like magical academy, but the main character had like a bonded person who, like, without this bonded person, her magic wasn't as strong, and like they can't really do magic unless they're like near each other. And they're like trying to solve a mystery because something happened to a student, and they're trying to undo what has happened to her. And they have to find this book to like cast a spell, and they're like unraveling all of this bigger thing that's like happening at the school. I don't want to give it away, but like nothing's what it seems. But it was a very fun book. I really enjoyed it. So check that one out if you're looking for something spooky and kind of like, I want to say kind of like Halloween Town High slash, what is it, the one after that, the one that they changed Marnie to a different actress, the one where she's in college. It's kind of like those vibes a little bit, but like a little spookier. The next book I read in November was Ahsoka. I gave it 5 stars. Enough said. I love Ahsoka. She's one of my favorite Star Wars characters. I've had her book downloaded on my Libby app forever, and I finally just bullied myself into listening to it. And honestly, it made me so sad. I restarted watching the Clone Wars because I missed this character so much after finishing this book. Honestly, if there was an entire Ahsoka book series, I would happily read it. Like, she's just a fabulous character, and this one takes place after Order 66, like a year after, and she is navigating what it's like to live as someone with Jedi powers in hiding, and navigating what it means to not be a Jedi, but also to take certain elements of the Jedi way that really resonate with her and feel true to her, and how to balance those things, because, you know, she leaves the Jedi Order, so she's not actually a Jedi or a Padawan, but she's also not, because she has been trained by them, and some of those things are like very deeply ingrained in her as a person. So anyway, I could go on about that forever, but it was a fabulous book. 5 stars. It could have been way longer and I would have been happy about it. The next book I finished was Bitten by Jordan Stephanie Gray. Now, this I gave 4.5 stars. It's YA, which is kind of part of the reason why I got the half star, because I think this probably would have actually been better as an adult book. I feel like you could have really like dug deeper into some of these moments, and they could have amped some things up had it been adult, but some of the decision making was very YA. So like, I would say it's more like new adult, because there was some spice, but it wasn't like graphic or like titillating. Like, it was on page a little bit. Most of it was fade to black, so it was fine. That was not the issue. There are definitely some things that I'm like, this could have been explained better, or like this situation could have been handled differently, and I have questions about why this didn't happen after this thing happened. where are the consequences of this actions that you have set up, that these would be the consequences of these actions, and then nothing happened? Curious, very curious. I will say, I guessed a lot of the things that happened. That doesn't make it a bad story. I just like guessing things. I really like guessing the end of a story. And just because I could guess the ending doesn't make it a bad story. Just pat myself on the back for being smart, I guess. I don't know. For being able to pick up what's being set down and sometimes get a little too into it. Anyway, all this to say, I really like how this book ended. It's definitely giving female rage, which I love. The female rage in this book, fabulous. 10 out of 10. So, cannot wait for the second book to come out. I'm actually really enjoying like thinking about it. So I kind of want to check out other books by this author. I don't know if she has any other series, but like I know she has a Siren book coming out at some point, and I'm like hoping that I can get my hands on that as soon as possible so I can just not read it on NetGalley. The next book that I read in November, I couldn't even tell you what book number this was. 9. This is the 9th book. We're at book 9. This was House of Dragons by K.A. Lind. Okay, I love a dragon book, and actually they sent me a physical arc in addition to the e-arc that I had on NetGalley. So I was like highly motivated, and I think these were indie published first, so actually I have access to the whole series through like Libby if I want to, and actually I think I have the second book queued up, even though the physical second book doesn't come out yet, the trad version. So I liked the universe, I liked the magic, I liked the dragons. I gave this 4.5 stars. I don't really know what to say about it. I think you just kind of have to go into it and just look forward to something kind of Game of Thrones like, almost. It's not, but like maybe a little House of the Dragon vibes, but also not really. I also feel that a lot of it felt not dissimilar to Crescent City, which is really weird that to put Crescent City and like Game of Thrones in the same thing, but like the vibes are there, and I can't explain it more without spoiling it. And this is not a spoiler video, so I'm gonna leave it at that. It was a very good book. I highly enjoyed it. I'm planning on finishing the series as soon as I can. The 10th book that I read in November, good God, we're only halfway through, was the ALC for Bound by Ali Hazelwood. I really enjoyed it. It was a nice vampire romance. It was, I don't think they called them vampires, but that's what they are. Forgery meets vampires. There's not really much else to say. He was hot. Their relationship was hot. I love. It's Ali Hazelwood. Like, I think you kind of pick up what I'm setting down here. The 11th book I read in November was A Land So Wide by Erin A. Craig. I love Erin A. Craig. I love her books. This actually, reading A Land So Wide means I've read the entirety of her backlist. All of her books I have read, and I have thoroughly enjoyed all of them. This was her first adult book. So there was like a few more like, not spicy scenes, but like spicy adjacent scenes. Like, it was definitely touching on some themes that would not be appropriate for a YA audience. So like the adult aspect of the book made sense. Honestly, I wish I had a physical copy of this book because it was so good. It was so good. I think my main gripe, because I gave this 4.5 stars as well. It wasn't quite 5 stars because it had an ending that left me with more questions than answers. It was a bit open-ended, and I can't say that I was following. I wanted it to be a little more satisfying. I wanted to know, I can't even say what happened without spoiling, but just know there was an open-ended scene kind of left to your interpretation of events, And while I do generally love that kind of ending, this one made me stop, reread, stop, reread, stop, reread like 4 or 5 times, and I'm like, I don't get it. But that's like the last page. So I'm not gonna hold that last page against the entire book because I enjoyed the entire book and I was having a fabulous time. The 12th book that I read in November was What Fury Brings by Trisha Levenseller. Now, listen, I did in fact download this book after I heard that it was controversial. Is that my red flag? A little bit, yes. I heard that there were very dark things and I wanted to see for myself. I like to make judgments for myself about what I actually think about a book, not necessarily based on what other people say, unless there's like huge red flags and I'm like, oh no, 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 I don't want to read that. But if it's something that I'm like, interesting, I want to see how that was handled firsthand. I know a lot of people didn't like this book. And that's okay, because I did. I gave this 4.5 stars. I won't be apologizing at this time. Basically, it's like a dark fantasy romance if the, what are they called? You know in Wonder Woman, how there's that island and all of the women on that island are really strong and they're like isolated from everyone else and it's like just a community of women. It was kind of like that, not really, but like kind of like, it was a community, a kingdom where it was run by women, it was a matriarchy, and women were like considered the strong ones. They were the God-blessed people's gender in that kingdom. And so like they were the dominant ones, they were the ones that were expected to protect their families, and they were the ones running the government, and men were seen as like lesser and as property and as objects. So like rather than there being a harem of women and wives, there was often a harem of men, of husbands, but they were kind of kept more as like almost like slaves, which is kind of where it gets into the dark elements. That's one thing that people didn't like, is like the men were treated like objects. They were forced to fight naked and oiled up for women's enjoyment. They had to follow commands like a dog almost. And there would be auctions where young boys would be auctioned off to join harems. I believe this is the biggest issue that most people had with this book, is that happened, and that I am 100% behind it. Is not okay. But I gotta say, that happens to girl characters in every other fantasy. If it was a fantasy written by a man, or even by a woman, but oftentimes in fantasy books there is a trope of girls, of young girls getting auctioned off or sold or otherwise put into situations that, you know, is above their age appropriateness, where they are SA'd, where they are, you know, married off at 12. People don't bat an eye. Well, most people do, but there's not the same level of outrage that Sansa was married off as a young teenager and brutally SA'd. But yet this book had alluded to, and scenes of just the auction. There was no like on-page teenage SA, unlike Game of Thrones, where we actually have on-screen gruesome essay of Sansa. I don't actually recall if that happens in the book or if that's in a book that hasn't yet come out. I don't remember. I read the books a long time ago and I've more recently seen the show, but regardless, I don't feel like the criticism is fair because it doesn't go both ways. People aren't criticizing things where these exact same things are happening to women as when they happen to men. Like it apparently is more disgusting when it happens to men, which is wild to me. But that's actually like the criticism. That's literally the criticism and the thing that is being pointed out in the book. So to me, that's like the point, is for you to feel uncomfortable. Like that, the author's note and like the dedication is literally pointing out that that's kind of the purpose of what Fury brings. It's kind of feminine rage and like, hey, now let's do this exercise where we think about what society would be like if we swapped gender roles and how ridiculous some of these things look when you swap the gender roles. It's like, that is crazy. Why are we doing that with women if you think it's like inappropriate to do with a man or like a boy? You know what I mean? Anyway, I went off the deep end here with that explanation. The 13th book that I read in November was Soul Match by Rebecca Danzenbaker. Soul Match is like a YA dystopian story about reincarnation, and there's a lot of political intrigue and corruption that they dismantle throughout the story. It's also a romance. I will say that I was screaming when their hands brushed. So like, not spicy, no fade to black, nothing like that. It's very distinctly YA, but my god, the tension between these characters was off the charts. It didn't even matter to me that they just had a kiss and some hand touching because I was feral for it. Feral. The 14th book I read in November was Silver Cloak by L.K. Stephen. I gave Silver Cloak 5 stars because that book was so good. At no point was I able to guess what this book was about or where it was going. At no point was it predictable. I don't even know where I thought it was gonna go, but that's not what happened. It was wild. It was undercover magician magic fueled by pain and pleasure. A highly traumatized female main character trying to get revenge on this magical gang that's like the reason her parents were killed. Wrapped in this romance with this dark, broody, tortured soul of a man who is the son of the leader of that gang, and how this ends up being way more complicated than you otherwise anticipate. And the way it ended, I may never recover. So, highly recommend. If you like books like A Dagger in the Flame, which has kind of a similar vibe, you'll like this. This was a little spicy. Like I said, pleasure and pain. So they do have relations on page. They're not overly graphic. It's not supposed to be, but it is on page and it is relatively graphic. So, the 15th book that I read. I can't believe I waited this long to read it. Honestly, if you're going to read it via audiobook. You will not regret it. But I read If Not For My Baby by Kate Golden. Now this is like inspired by Hosier, which I'm not a big fan of Hosier, not because I don't like him, like he's an attractive man for sure, but his music isn't like my cup of tea. It's very folky, it's very whatever. He has songs I like, but overall I wouldn't say like I'm a fan of Hosier. Fictional Hosier, however, I'm flabbergasted. I have no words. This man was so hot. It was a rock star romance with a backup singer and the main talent. This man was perfection. There was a point there was a like it'll fit moment that I was getting ready for bed. I was taking off my, not my makeup, because that implies that I was wearing makeup, but I was like washing my face and like brushing my teeth, taking out my contacts. Can you get down? I was getting ready for bed, and I literally stopped what I was doing and just leaned my face against the wall, because I was like, did this man just say what I think he said in that tone? If you're squeamish about spicy scenes, maybe don't listen to the audiobook, because this man groans. It was the most exquisite male groans I have ever heard in an audiobook. So it wasn't like, what? It was like, did I'm alone, right? Like, there's, what do you mean? It was so good. Just take my word for it. Listen to it. 5 stars. Easiest 5 stars I've ever given to a contemporary romance in my entire life. It was hilarious. The book was great. It had a really good pacing, so like slowish burn, like, and even tropes that I don't really enjoy, which is like the, oh, I'm afraid of love and I will fight my feelings no matter how good you're being to me because I don't believe that love can last. I don't really like that trope, but like, I didn't care. In this book, it was fantastic. It was handled really well. The pacing was well done, and by the end, like, it felt genuine. Like, they didn't move too fast. Their chemistry was off the charts, and the third act breakup situation, it didn't feel rushed. It wasn't like the third act breakup and then they make up and it's all good, the end. They had to communicate. There was communication on page that was great. It just like, I felt very satisfied with where it ended, how things were wrapped up. All of the loose ends were tied. Very happy with it. So, if not for my baby, highly recommend if you haven't read it already. The 16th book I read in November was Most Eligible. Now this is an arc. The book does not actually come out until January 13th? Don't quote me on that. It's definitely in January. This one was ahead of time, ahead of schedule. I know. Applaud, because it's truly shocking. This was like if MISC Congeniality met The Bachelor, which is a very perfect description. I've never watched The Bachelor, but this is exactly what I imagine it's like on The Bachelor. And also I feel that the timing of this is really good because it, obviously the setting was in like a reality TV show, and it kind of shows how like, it's not scripted per se, like they're not memorizing lines, but it is guided based on production. So like, there's a producer who's kind of like, let's try that again. Why don't you give us more? Like, why don't you enter a second time and let's try reshooting that to give the audience more. And then there's even like a character who's like, I am paid more to be to get a villain edit. It's a real thing. I don't care about actually finding love. I want the recognition that comes with being on reality TV. And I feel that with things like The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives being out right now and all of the discourse about that, it just felt like really good timing for this book, for me to read this book. So this book was very funny. I gave it 4 stars. Very enjoyable. A little bit rushed at the end, but like, not bad. Not bad at all. I felt very satisfied with the ending. It was hilarious. Highly recommend. Check it out in January if you're looking for a very good audiobook. I'm sure it's a good experience even if you read it with your eyeballs though. Now the 17th book, please don't judge me. Please don't judge me for this one, because this was the book that was on my NetGalley for the longest. And to be fair, it was one of those situations where they were coming out with the second book and you could download the first book to read so you could catch up. And that's the situation. I was like, I should download the first book and not the second one, just in case. Thank God I did that, because My 17th book in November was Trial of the Sun Queen by Nisha J. Tooley. So, I don't think I need to say it, but this book was 5 stars. A little bit predictable, but like a solid romantasy. I was having a great time. If you love books like Throne of Glass, you'll love this book. Like, if Throne of Glass is your vibe, like the first book. No notes, just trials and unhinged romance. Spicier than Throne of Glass, so I will give you that. I won't say anymore. I feel like most people have read Trial of the Sun Queen by this point, who's going to. So if it's on your list, you should read it. If you've already read it, then you know how I feel. You understand. Also, iconic first line. Iconic. The 18th book for November was a Brandon Mull book that's in the Fablehaven universe. It's a new book from the point of view of Newell and Doran, who are the satyrs on the, what is it called? Sanctuary, the magical sanctuary, Fablehaven. And this was, I want to say this is the first book in a series. It might just be a one-off, but this was called The Gorgon's Fury. So, if you can't imagine, it's about these satyrs going on an adventure because a Gorgon is loose on Fablehaven, and they're coming to terms with what it's like to be changed by all of their interactions and all of their adventuring with Seth and Kendra over the years, and being braver and less, and having more responsibility than they used to, and kind of coming to terms with what is it like to be a satyr who's not just selfish. So that was a quick, short novella. It's not a full-length book. I think it was only like 5 hours, the audiobook. I gave it 3.5 stars. I would have liked more. I wish that there had been at least a cameo of Seth or Kendra. We did get a cameo of Nox and whatever Nox's sister's name is, I cannot remember. It was fun. It was a fun book. I had a good time. I listened to it in an afternoon. It was good. If you like the Fablehaven universe and you would like a little bit more, check it out. So the last book I actually finished in November is The South Wind by Alexandria Warwick. I gave this 4.5 stars. This was such a fun romantasy. I really like that it's like Greek mythology based, but not explicitly. Like the gods are not named Zeus and Hera and Apollo. Like, they're not named that. They're like the lightning god, whatever. I thought it was a very interesting take. It was kind of a Sleeping Beauty retelling and mixed with Greek mythology. I had a very good time. I loved the characters. I loved the second chance romance, which is not something that I usually would say because I don't generally love second chance romance, but I really liked it in this one. So it was fun. It was a interconnected standalone. The other books are like the North Wind and the East Wind. I think the West, is it the West Wind or the East Wind? One of those is coming out soon. Actually, if I'm thinking correctly, it's the West Wind that's already out and the East Wind is coming out. I digress. A fabulous book. Highly recommend if you like the idea of like Greek mythology meets fairy tale. Like, it's a fun time. So those are all the books that I read in November. I have no idea what I would pick as my top book. It would be, gosh, a toss-up between If Not For My Baby and Silvercloak, I think. It's wild. I almost never pick contemporary romance for my top read. That was so good, though. So good. It might have to be Silvercloak, though, because Silvercloak was really incredible. I don't know. I better think on that. I don't know. I'll say for now it's a tie. It's a tie. Those are the two that I really liked. They were my favorites for the month. But all of them were good, except for the ones that weren't. And I've already talked about why. Anywho, on to my December hopeful list. Okay, I'm someone who doesn't stick to a TBR, so that's why it's hopefuls, not a December TBR. Give me some slack if I don't end up finishing these books in December. I'm a mood reader and I will follow my mood wherever it may lead me. Sometimes that's to greatness and sometimes that's to reading only a handful of books in a month, so here we are. The first thing is I'd like to finish Vesseless, which is the book I'm currently reading. It's by Courtney L. Wynn. I think that's how you say her name. I'm really enjoying this. I'm still like only like 10-15% in, so nothing has really taken off yet, so I'm a little bit confused still, but like that's pretty typical for me. I'll pick it up as I go along. It'll become more clear as I keep reading. I think I have an idea of where it's going, but it's still early. There's still time for it to show me a whole new world, you know? So there's that. I also want to finish A Vow in Vengeance by, I believe her name is Jacqueline Rodriguez. So yeah, I would like to finish reading A Vow of Vengeance by Jacqueline Rodriguez. I believe that's her name. It comes out in January. I was sent an ARC, a physical ARC of it, and honestly, I'm really enjoying it. The only reason I didn't finish it is because I started doing NetGalley November and I put all of my physical non-NetGalley books aside, but I'm really liking it. I started annotating it. That's another reason it's taking me forever. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, but here we are. I've already started. I'm not going to stop. I also would like to finish Accomplice to the Villain. I started it, but then my NetGalley hold elapsed. It wasn't that I wasn't enjoying it. I just started it too late and then I never got a chance to finish it, but I do have it checked out. So I'm gonna finish that. I also would like to listen to the audiobook of Conform, which I do have an ARC for, that I again didn't read, but also had e-ARC for. I'm the worst. You know, it just, as I'm saying this, I know there's a lot of people who are going like, what? You didn't read that? I know. Don't come for me. I am who I am, okay? The Princess Knight by Kate Jacobs is another one, which is like She Knight meets Legally Blonde. Again, a book I had an ARC of and never got around to reading. I know, you don't need to yell at me because I can yell at myself. I'm upset with myself. At the end of December, early January, I will do a year wrap up where I'll update about my favorite books of every month and talk about books that I am excited for that are coming up, etc. So, as usual, that's kind of the plan. I also think that in the new year, I will start making some new content that I'm very excited about. I have tried to get into the swing of things this year, hit or miss, but yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I hope you enjoyed the chaos because I certainly had a great time. See you next time, besties. Bye.